Deepti Laurent joins me on the set to take a look at the papers today. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Jeannie.
You're going to start in India, where protests are continuing against that controversial citizenship bill.
That's right. Violent protests that started, that has really seen student protest movements across the country. Anger is growing at this new citizenship law, a bill that will essentially make it easier for non-Muslims from neighboring countries to become Indian citizens. Critics, though, say the legislation is anti-Muslim and accuse Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, of pursuing his Hindu nationalist agenda. You see in the editorial of the Times of India today, they're calling on, calling on authorities to allow this protest movement to take place, to allow this peaceful stir. The government says the law seeks to accord nationality to religious minorities. Prime Minister Narendra Modi even taking to Twitter yesterday to call for calm, call for unity. The protests, though, does have the echoes of Myanmar's dark past. That's what this writer from the Financial Times says. Like the Rohingya in Myanmar, the specter of statelessness looms for millions of Muslim residents whose families have lived for generations in India. There's also an interesting piece, Jeannie, from the Washington Post, which says that the opposition to the legislation is actually varied. Not everyone is opposing it for the same reason. In the east of India, protesters are flat out opposed to according any kind of nationality to migrants, whereas in the north, it's more about the criticism that it's discriminatory towards Muslims. But this writer wondering if students will be able to pull the country back from the brink.
Another country on the brink now, Lebanon, where the president has postponed discussions to select a new prime minister after that violence we saw over the weekend.
That's right. Lebanon also finds itself on the brink of political and economic collapse. Talks to find a new prime minister were halted, and the situation it's just becoming more and more complicated, with some now saying that violent groups have infiltrated a peaceful protest movement. That's according to the Saudi newspaper Arab News. L'Orient Le Jour, the French language Lebanese daily, really can't contain its anger today. I quote, it says, "Not even the prospect of economic collapse or intense violence in the streets or the demands of a protest movement could push the political classes to put aside their differences, form a government that's capable of pulling the country out of the situation."
The British football club Arsenal now has come under fire for failing to back its midfielder, Mesut Ozil, over comments he made about the ethnic Muslim Uighurs in China.
That's right, in a controversy that echoes another controversy involving the NBA a few months back. Arsenal has been slammed for not supporting Mesut Ozil. The 31-year-old has spoken out about the plight of Uighur Muslims in China in the past. And in Sunday's match against Manchester City, the Chinese state broadcaster actually pulled a scheduled live showing because of his comments on social media. And in the Global Times, their editorial there slams his comments as, quote, nonsense. It calls Ozil, quote, muddle-headed, reckless, and full of Islamic fundamentalism, adding, I quote, "It seems unnecessary to seriously reason with someone who is so shallow and narrow-minded." So some very choice words there for Ozil from the Chinese press. Arsenal's response was actually to distance itself from his comments, a stance for which this writer at the Daily Telegraph Sport really criticizes the club's failure to back Ozil's right to express himself for fear of losing out in a highly lucrative market. Sets a dangerous precedent, this writer says.
Now, meanwhile, the French paper L'Humanité is looking at the fate of a Uyghur university official who's been accused of ethnic separatism in China.
That's right. His name is Tash Polat. He's actually a member of the Communist Party. He was a senior member of the University of Shenzhen and was picked up by authorities 2 years ago at the airport. Since then, he's been detained in the infamous indoctrination camps. For L'Humanité, the French paper, he's really a symbol of the repression of minorities in China.
Deepti, something completely different to wrap up now. Christmas is almost upon us. It's the season, it appears, for raunchy Christmas sweaters.
Well, they are. I mean, Christmas jumpers are a staple of Christmas in many countries. The ugly Christmas jumper has its own day now, Jeannie, which is this Friday, by the way, if you're interested. jumpers so ugly they've become fashionable again. But this year it seems to be all about the raunch. You'll remember a certain American supermarket who we won't name who apologized over its coke snorting Santa. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You see here behind me Santa, a very rude Santa, peeing in the snow. Get lit as well. Another Christmas jumper that's making the rounds this year. There's also one that's not here, but you can see a suggestive Santa with the slogan, "I have a big package for you." So the Washington Post explains that the whole Christmas jumper game has sort of become a commercial follow-up to Halloween, but obviously a lot more joyous and definitely a lot more kitsch.
And certainly not for children.
Not for children.
Deepti, thank you for that. Deepti Kadron with that look at the papers today. You can take a look at it again if you like on our website. That address, France24.com.